Today, we're diving into the absolutely incredible 10,000-year journey of one of our most familiar companions, the house cat. So many of us share our lives with cats. We love them, we live with them, but their journey to our homes, well, that's a dramatic story that most of us have never heard. It's a 10,000-year epic full of gods, demons, and just sheer survival. So, how in the world did this happen? How did this independent, solitary predator end up conquering not just our homes, but our hearts too? To find out, we have to go way, way back. All right, first up, an unlikely partnership and how it all began. Now, you might think this story starts with cuddles and affection, but no, it begins with a very practical arrangement, right at the dawn of human civilization. So picture this. About 10,000 years ago, we humans start farming. We're storing all this grain, which, you guessed it, attracts a ton of mice and rats. And who shows up for the all-you-can-eat rodent buffet? Wildcats. It was the perfect deal, really. They got an easy, reliable meal, and we got the best pest control around. And this wasn't just a business deal. We have evidence like a 9,500-year-old burial in Cyprus, where a cat was deliberately buried with a human. That tells you a genuine bond was already starting to form. So, this partnership was about to level up in a major way. The cat went from being a simple pest controller to something much, much more. Let's jump ahead to about 4,000 years ago to the land of the pharaohs. In ancient Egypt, the cat's status just soared to incredible heights. They went from being useful to being, well, literally worshipped. And the level of reverence was just extraordinary. Cats were seen as the living embodiment of the goddess Bastet. When a family cat died, people would mourn just as deeply as they would for a human relative. They even mummified their bodies and buried them in sacred tombs. They were so valued, in fact, that taking one out of Egypt was a crime that could get you the death penalty. Now, despite that export ban, you just can't keep a good cat down. They eventually traveled the world. Phoenician traders smuggled them onto their ships to protect cargo, and Roman legions brought them on campaigns to guard their food supplies. And in this era, that famous independence of theirs, it was admired. Their skill as hunters was prized above everything else. But that golden age was not going to last. As we move into medieval Europe, the cat's fortune takes a really dark and terrifying turn. I mean, just look at this. It was a complete reversal. In an age of growing superstition, that very same independence that was once respected was now seen as proof of a deceitful, cunning nature. The once divine creature got a total rebrand as a tool of the devil. And in the late 15th century, it became official. Pope Innocent VIII formalized the persecution by branding cats as pagan animals that were connected to witchcraft. The church had effectively just signed their death warrant across most of Europe. The accusations were just wild. I mean, consorting with Satan, being the familiars of witches, like a supernatural sidekick. They were systematically hunted down and killed, often in these brutal public spectacles during religious festivals. It was a terrible time to be a cat. And yet, while so much of Europe was waging this war on cats, one region tells a completely different story. Yeah, in medieval Poland, the old view of the cat as a useful, valued animal just persisted. They weren't persecuted at all. In fact, they were protected, seen as an essential part of the home, still doing their ancient duty of guarding grain from rodents. This old Polish folk saying sums it up perfectly. It goes, "Nie wdawaj się z nim, bo on kota zabił," which means, don't get involved with him because he killed a cat. Just think about that. Harming a cat was seen as a true mark of a bad character. That's a powerful social code right there. So how did the cat stage its ultimate comeback? Well, the road to redemption actually began with a terrible tragedy. The irony here is just profound and tragic. The Black Death, which was spread by rodents, absolutely devastated Europe. And with their natural predators, cats, nearly wiped out, the rat population had exploded. It was a brutal, horrific reminder of the cat's vital role, and people slowly started to realize what a terrible mistake they'd made. The journey back into our good graces was slow, but it happened. It started in the 17th century when cats became fashionable companions for aristocrats. Then things really picked up. By 1868, Britain actually put cats on the public payroll. In 1871, you get the first modern cat show in London. And by 1934, Poland, which always had their back, established its first formal club for breeders. The comeback was real.
And hey, that public payroll job, it wasn't just an honorary title. In 19th century Britain, those government mouse catchers got a real weekly salary, 2 shillings for their food and care. Not bad.
And that brings us to today. From being nearly wiped out in parts of Europe, cats have completed the ultimate comeback. They've reclaimed their place not just as useful partners, but as cherished members of our families all around the globe. So when you look back at this long, dramatic history, from partner to god to demon and all the way back to companion, it leaves you with one final, kind of provocative question. After 10,000 years of this, who really domesticated whom? Thanks for watching.